Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's CJ. Welcome back for another quick update on the 120 gallon Reef. And this is pretty much the last footage I actually have of the tank as it is right now. You know, with the current lighting, the current equipment, and pretty much right before I decided to do some major overhauls and tear down the floating canopy on this system. So, you know, as you guys are wondering, you know, what is he tearing down? What changes are coming? I'm gonna try to highlight a few of those things in this video. We still got a lot more work to do, but I gotta make sure I document it as we go, just in case something goes wrong and, you know, I don't have any other footage to share. So with that being said, let's jump into this. You know, this is mainly gonna be about the lighting upgrade on my system. As you guys know, I've been rolling with the Ocean Revive T247 LEDs for the last 3 years at this point. 2 solid years covering my JBJ45. If you guys have not had a chance to go back and check out that tank, definitely go look at it. At that time, there was not many people that were actually running these Ocean Revive lights. I kind of happened to stumble across them, you know, ended up buying them, putting them on the tank, and I quickly realized they were well worth the value, especially with it being, you know, around that $170 price point, built-in timers, you know, full spectrum lighting, and not to mention only needing one plug. One plug doesn't sound like a lot as far as, you know, other people listening, but if you're in the hobby long enough, you know, plugs come at a premium. And if you got a light wasting multiple plugs for no reason, that's a bad thing. So, you know, besides those things, lights are capable of growing anything you want. You know, SPS, LPS, mixed reefs, you know, SPS dominated tanks, whatever you want, I believe these lights are capable of it. So I just want to make sure I give these lights their due. You know, this is not a situation where I'm moving on from something because it did not work. This is more of a situation. I'm just moving on because that's pretty much what you do in this hobby. You keep progressing, you know, you keep pushing, you keep striving for bigger, better, you know, more tuning, more functionality, more everything. And that's pretty much the main reason I decided to move on from the Ocean Revive lighting. You know, as with every change in this hobby, it's always bittersweet, right? There's always some good that you're gonna miss and some bad that you're glad you can rectify. And that's pretty much how I feel about this floating canopy. For those who've been following my build, you watched me document step by step how I took a canopy that was meant to be on the tank, which was very heavy, solid wood, you know, 60 to 80 pounds, and physically mounted on the wall. First time I've ever done anything like this. I'm not a professional. All I have is a tool, a drill, and a hammer. But, you know, a man with no tools finds a way, right? So even with that being said, the accomplishment was also met by a few things I wish I would have done different. You know, first of all, the way the LEDs are mounted in the canopy, meaning I didn't recess them enough in a way to where you couldn't see them. So they basically were up mounted 17 inches above the water, with a canopy that was not blocking any of the light from escaping the light, meaning bleeding over into the living room, blinded me and my lazy boy as I look up at him. It was just in a way to where I felt like the canopy was not wrapping the lights as well as it could have. So that's a major reason I wanted to get it down. The second reason is that it's stationary. You know, I really didn't have a way to lower or raise the lights once I mounted them in this canopy. You know, luckily I got the mounting right as far as the height, the spread was perfect, but with trying new lighting that I'm not sure about, I like the ability of raising and lowering the lights. So I do have a few different ideas of how to remount the new lighting, but we'll cover that later in this video. So let me take this opportunity to give you guys the last, you know, Ocean Revive lit update on the system. And to be perfectly honest with you, by the time this video's out, I've already taken these lights down and we're already started the journey, or the new journey, with the new lighting. But while we're here, let me catch you up on everything that's happened over the last couple of weeks that I haven't had a chance to really talk about. So if you guys have not had a chance to watch the last video, definitely go back and check it out. You know, it was all blues, tons of candy, adding a bunch of different flavors to the tank. You know, by flavors, I mean different color types of zoanthus, pallies, you know, some meteor showers, some gonoporas, definitely a ton of different colors I've added to the system. In that video, I also mentioned a few things that we're not doing as well, and those corals I've, you know, pretty much checked out at this point. So, you know, that's including my bubble coral. That's also including one piece of SPS. I didn't like the situation, but other than that, everything else is doing fine, guys. Tell you what, the last, I would say 4 to 6 weeks of this system has been a very wild roller coaster. You know, for me going through low nutrient issues to high nutrient issues to, you know, silly mistakes I've made as far as auto top offs, salinity swings, you know, alkalinity swings, just everything that you could do to crash your system or kill stuff I've done it in this tank. So everything that is surviving at this point, stand them up, you know, give them a round of applause, pat them on the back on the polyps, and congratulate those guys for continuing the mission. But other than that, you know, I'm just really glad to get to a point to where I'm almost ready to stop adding corals, to stop putting my hands in the tank. Almost, you know, at the point of hitting that year 2 mark and my goal of not adding more stuff. So year 2 mark is fastly approaching, and I'll make sure I do a full year recap during that video. Now, as far as other new additions I have not had a chance to speak about, let's cover the livestock. You know, I have added 5 new fish to the system. I never really mentioned that, you know, if you noticed the videos, you may have noticed 2 new guys floating around. Actually, one major guy is going to be that red and white fish swimming. That's going to be a cigar wrasse. That's a new addition I added to replace the blue head wrasse that was murdering everything. Now, that guy is not an invert eater, but he definitely is a rock and coral flipper. Very strong fish when it comes to flipping things. Caught him trying to flip my clam. He definitely flipped the bubble coral over a few times, contributed to his death. So beautiful fish. It's just something I have to work around. Now, another thing I added in the system, you guys are probably going to be asking, what the hell was I thinking? It's going to be damsels. Ended up adding 4 of the guys, some gold and blue damsels. If you look them up on Live Aquaria, I believe that's what they're named as. They have a very beautiful blue color to them. Kind of reminds you of the neon tetras in freshwater, that fluorescent blue with the yellow stripe on it. Very beautiful fish. Definitely a little different than the standard blue, you know, damsels with yellow tails. Figured I would add them. They've been great additions. One thing I've noticed with damsels, at least in my system, with it being a bigger tank or the biggest tank I've ever had, these guys don't really start as much trouble in a system with fish that are a lot bigger than them. Had a lot more trouble in the JBJ. Definitely not noticing any issues in here. Besides these guys digging up the little burrows and, you know, burying my lobos and different things. Other than that, these guys have been model citizens. Now, when it comes to the inverts in the system, you know, with all the wrasses in here, glad to say everyone's still alive and kicking. You know, I still got my cleaner shrimp, my fire shrimp, my solid lightfoot crab, you know, my reef lobster, emerald crabs. Everyone's still in here doing their thing. So, you know, keep knocking on wood that no one turns into a crazy madman and starts murdering everything. But one thing I have had issues with is aggression between my green wrasse and everyone else in the system. I actually had one jumper, the first jumper in the whole time of this tank, not having a lid. My yellow wrasse jumped out due to being chased multiple times by that green wrasse. And I've also lost my Melanaris wrasse. I have not seen that guy in a couple weeks. Those guys were getting victimized every night when the blues come on, getting chased into the power heads and just everything in between. So I got a feeling, you know, it's either suicide by murder or murder by suicide, whatever you want to call it. But at this point, you know, I'm down 2 wrasses. So all that does is just give me an opportunity to buy more. I'll keep you guys updated on the next stock and choices as far as what going in the tank. Now, when it comes to equipment, only thing I have to really update you guys on is going to be the T1 calcium reactor, the Aquamax. Had some issues with it, ended up sorting it out. It was a CO2 leak in a couple of places, you know, where the push connect fittings weren't tight, where the regulator seal wasn't tight, but I ended up sorting it out, and I'll cover those details in another video because I think that may help anyone that's thinking about getting that calcium reactor. So that's pretty much going to catch you guys up on everything that's happened over the last couple of weeks that I have not had a chance to share in my last videos. Don't have footage on it, but that's pretty much the highlights of what's happened. Now, am I past all my issues? Definitely not, but I will be documenting as usual and sharing it with you all. But as we enjoy this one last look, you know, this extended full tank shot, if you guys notice, we've been on this shot for multiple minutes at this point. I never do this, but I figured this is the last time we're gonna look at the tank this way. let's enjoy it, you know. And as I'm looking at it myself, I'm thinking, man, I really hope I can justify the move. You know, it looks good. The JBJ looked good. There's so many things that look good that I feel I can do better, and I make a change. You know, a change against maybe a lot of other people's wishes, a lot of other people's desires that may not have wanted to see it. But I feel like the changes I've made have always ended up being for the better. So hopefully it's the same in this case. And either way, we're going to find out. So let's go ahead and keep it moving and get these lights tore down and see what we end up doing next. So as you watch this next clip, keep one thing in mind. This canopy was mounted with nothing underneath it, no risk involved. Removing the canopy, you know, a 70, 80 pound canopy above my entire investment was something that I was not really comfortable with. You know, I waited and waited and waited, but it was finally time to go ahead and make this happen. Now, luckily, the chains that I had mounted on the front of this canopy were actually bolted into the studs in a way to where it could physically support the entire weight with just one chain. So that acted as the third person helping us. So luckily, shout out to the wife for, you know, getting the other side and helping me get this thing down once and for all. So the next stop is going to be the good old Home Depot, the place that you always have to visit 3 times, right? But I came here in search of some mounting kits for the Radion lighting. Shout out to Rico's Reef Tank, gave me this idea, something he used on his XR15s. Very cheap and very effective. Just track lighting for lights, $10 each. You know, get you a couple of washers to go down to the grooves that are built into them, a screw to hook into your Radion, and voila, you got your $25 to $30 mounting kit for a fraction of the cost. That's very, you know, sturdy and strong, and let you do whatever you want to do as far as mounting your lights. So the primary reason I had to do this was because of the limits of the RMS mounts that come with these Radions. They don't work on Eurobrace tanks. The only version of them that does work mounts on the sides of the tank and still has a rail going across the whole, you know, middle of your system. So if I was going to do that, might as well do it my own way for cheaper, something I can hang from the ceiling. And I tell you what, so glad I did this. So definitely recommend it if you're looking for a cheap option. Now, speaking of cheap, let's talk about these diffusers. I gotta admit to you guys, you know, I was excited about Radion's quality. When I opened the diffusers, I was like, what the heck is this? These guys can do a little better. I think with it being so cheap, they should only cost maybe $10, and they should probably give you like 4 or 5 different screens, because it's barely cheap plastic that, you know, if you put a dent in it, it can just rip. Definitely not something I'm proud of. So if it sounds like I'm bashing them, it's because I probably am. But even with that being said, we got it. So I'm gonna install them on the lights. We're gonna turn them on, and we're gonna see just how much of a difference these diffusers make. Now, one thing I can't recommend enough, if you guys don't do this, cover your tank. If you're ever gonna do anything around your system, cover it up. You know, a few trash bags, tablecloth, whatever you wanna do, just make sure you protect anything from falling in, because in my case, definitely saved me from a lot of chaos from all of that, you know, debris and whatever else falling in the system. And here we go, Radion's on the tank, and I gotta admit to you guys, I was completely blown away by the power of these little hockey pucks. Man, it's ridiculous the amount of spread they have, the shimmer it created, the color difference on camera, definitely amazing. I can't wait to share it with you guys. Unfortunately, I was blown away so much that I accidentally lost my mind and blew up one of my Radion lights. That story is for another day. You probably will think it's funny and educational at the same time. In either case, we'll talk about it. But we're gonna stop this video here. So as always, hey, you guys can like, comment, subscribe. You guys keep doing what y'all do. Y'all be easy and happy reefing.